All right, so let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good morning, David. My name is Claudio. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the Susan Fairfax City. We're very humble, grateful that David Helpling accepted our invitation to our show. Hey, David, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Claudio. It's nice to meet you and be part of your show. And I very recently heard so much about you, and my publicist Beth reached out and said that your shows are amazing. So
Thank you. I
I'm
appreciate
excited
it.
to talk with you.
Thank you very much. Same here, man. So let's start with what's going on in the world. This has been a very weird period for everybody with the pandemic. It is going away. It's not going away. Some people believe in the vaccine. Some people don't. How the COVID has affected your life, your family, your life as a musician? Because if you're a touring musician, you cannot earn money. You cannot tour. You were staying at home. So how you holding up, man?
Well, I'm holding up pretty well. I'm not a touring musician. I'm a recording artist, so I make records and I don't perform live.
Yeah.
And the pandemic, I think kind of affected me, I assume, as it affected a lot of other people. I can be sort of a homebody. I've been fixing up my home for the past 10 years. I've been fixing up my studio. I'm here in San Diego. I'm in a good place. When the pandemic first happened and everything sort of went very quickly from a lot of activity to nothing, the airlines stopped. The freeways were empty. People were staying home. I'm an optimist as a person, and I sort of saw that as, people are staying home, they're cooking for themselves, maybe being closer to their family, and there's less pollution. And I was like, maybe there's going to be something positive out of this. And it just kept going and going, and I was waiting. Okay, when is the pandemic over? And it hasn't been a clean on and off. It's been all these different talk and levels of contagion, levels of safety, and now it's still going on. So all I can do is stay inspired and work on music and try to stay healthy, and that's what I'm doing, and trying to see the positive in everything. And that's that. I don't know if you hear it, but in my music, there's a lot of positivity and love and hope in the stuff, even though I'm making epic electronic music,
For me, man, it's too bad to say this because over 1 million people, at least in the United States, have died, and the previous administration didn't do anything enough. Well, I don't want to go into politics, but it could have been managed differently, especially in the United States. We have the means or resources to do whatever we want. Other countries took the stuff seriously, crossed the border, put people to work, and took the BS out of the way. But unfortunately, in this country, we didn't. So for me, I was going too fast in my life, right? I was buying a lot of music, and I was buying more that I was able to consume. So I slowed down in my life, and I said, well, music is very important to me, man. I better, since I'm working at home, instead of putting the CD or the vinyl, why don't I create a record to listen to my own stuff? Yeah, never mind a radio, to listen to my own a good interface and play a random with different style, right? And then I send the link to different people, and they like the stuff. And then it went, step by step. First, I opened like a soft rock radio, then a jazz and rock. Then I began doing interviews, and then an electronic music. And then I thought, man, if musicians are not touring, they must be at home. Has nothing. Maybe they have nothing to do.
Yeah.
So I end up sending email at the beginning. Nobody gave me I didn't get any feedback. Nobody was replying. I said, man, what I'm doing wrong. And eventually, a former member of Genesis, Steve Hackett, replied to me, and I say, listen, my radios are 50 people. Nobody know the radio, but I plan to do something good. As mentioned before, my goal is to have a radio for everybody can listen, always going to be free, broadcasting of good quality, no advertising, no social media BS, just good music, and it's going to be great. And Steve Hackett then say, yeah, no problem, I will give you it. And then another one, and then another one, and it has been like a gift, a miracle for me that now people all over the world listen to stuff. I've been able to interview people from Toto, from Genesis, and all the electronic music guys in Germany, and you now, and it's been a pleasure, man. I cannot Yes, man.
Look where you are. You know,
Yeah.
you decided
Yeah.
to do this, and now you have a bunch of radio stations. You've created this really high end format for anyone anywhere to tune into all your stations. And you seem pretty happy. You must have a lot of listeners telling you that they love your service.
Absolutely, man. I'm very lucky. As I mentioned before, I don't play any instrument. I don't know how to read any kind of music at all. But I've been listening to music 3 4 hours a day from the last 50 years. So I'm very, very, very blessed, man.
I love that.
Were you born like in a musical family, and how were you when you began perhaps taking piano lesson or guitar
I
lesson?
you know I was born and raised here in San Diego, California.
Yeah.
You know, beach culture, and my family wasn't necessarily a musical family, but there was always a piano in the house, and there was a piano in my house, and then I would go over to my grandmother's house often, and she had this beautiful piano. So I was always, when the parents are talking, I would run into the piano room and I would hold the pedal down, the sustain pedal, and listen to the notes go long sustains. And I found a lot of magic in piano. So I started just plucking out little ideas when I was like 6 years old. And then by the time I got into middle school or high school, when I was maybe 15, I was listening to U2, Depeche Mode, Simple Minds, all these big sounds, big guitar sounds, big synthesizers. So I bought a guitar. I was in a band, you know, and I was just chasing that big sound, and I still am. I just happened to lean into a place that was more spacious and atmospheric, but still really big. And that's the path that led me to where I am right now.
Good for you. Were you like in a band before when you?
I was in a bunch of bands in high school. You know, we were just messing around writing our own songs, playing U2 songs. And then I would be in another band, and then that would break up. You know, in high school, the commitment level isn't really serious. A lot of the bands I was in, most of the members were interested in getting the girls and stuff, which is cool. But I really was chasing this big guitar sound. So I just kept going to bands, and eventually I gave up. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do music myself, because it became clear that I couldn't rely on a drummer and a bass player and a keyboardist all the time. So I said, I'll just play all the instruments. So as soon as I graduated high school, I built a very small studio and I started making my own music. I did my own percussion. I got into sampling, synthesizers. And ever since then, I've been my own person, you know, and I would just make music that I want to make just for me, my own weird kind of music, you know. And it turns out there's a lot of people that like that. So.
And then was family pressure in the sense of, well, forget about music, go to school. You know, you will never make any money as a musician. Or I'm quite sure that you had the conversation with your dads, your parents. Right? So,
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky for the most part that my parents trusted me.
yeah.
But when I was in high school, I was a senior in high school. I said, Mom and Dad, I'm not even going to take the SAT because I'm never going to college. And they said, well, why? What are you going to do? And I said, I want to be a musician. You imagine your parents saying, you want to be a musician? Really? And but they were like, okay, do what you're going to do. But it led me here. And I've been producing music for television and film and video games since 2000. And I own 2 publishing companies, one Southern Hemisphere, one here. And I have 8 records on a great record label. And I make music full time, and I have a house. So my parents are like, good job, you did it. Yeah.
For me, man, I was a terrible student, a very bad student. And my parents were very pissed off at me because my dad and my mom were kind of famous in Chile. And I wasn't applying myself. I was, you know, chasing girls and drinking beer all the time. And I wanted to come to, remember, 36 years ago, you know, bands were not going to Latin America, right? So I was going crazy because I would have a vinyl from Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or whatever, Genesis, and I couldn't see them live. YouTube didn't exist, the internet didn't exist, so I was going crazy, you know. So I and I was a very bad student. So my parents said, you know, what make you feel that will help you out if you don't make it here, your own home, living at home, what make you feel that you will make it there? And well, 36 37 years later, from being a very bad student, I have 6 college degrees. I went to the best school in the country. I work for a great company. I'm a software engineer, and I own a couple companies.
Nice.
I have done well with my life, man. I cannot complain. I'm no,
Congratulations.
when people say talk about American dream, I'm the American dream alive, because this country has been very, very good to me. People,
How old were you when you moved from Chile to
21.
the East Coast?
21.
Wow, young 21-year-old into the
Yeah.
United States. Did you come directly to the East Coast into Washington D.C.?
No, I went to. I arrived in Chicago. I went to school in University of. I attended engineering school in University of Illinois
Okay.
and Urbana-Champaign. Then I went to Boston. I went to Harvard. I did a couple master degrees. Then I got another master at UVA. Now I'm finishing some
Impressive.
program at MIT. So I look out. You know, I'm an average guy. The only difference is that I have more motivation than most people. So I have like a dinner drive
I love that.
to succeed and do well in life. People right now, we were talking before in the video, right? Yeah, I cannot get a hold of Peter Gabriel or all the other Genesis guy or the Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, my top 3 band, but I'm closing the gap little by little, man.
Pretty soon they're going to answer the phone because they're going to go, oh, it's
This guy-
Claudio Bustamante. Let's call this guy.
That's right. So I'm very blessed. So that's
Well, I think that's an inspiring story. Your story is inspiring for me, but it's inspiring for your listeners.
Yeah.
21 years old, you go from Chile to Chicago, and you're in the United States, and now you have all these degrees and you own all these companies. But through all of that, your enthusiasm for the music that you like, this progressive electronic music, is still where you are every day, and that's amazing.
Right. That's right. I mean, it is. Music takes me places. I don't know how to describe it. I will never be able to. But if you're at home, and I was listening. A good example. I was listening to the album the last one, the latest one you did, and the videos that you sent me, and all the stuff I playing 45. Put my headphone. I drink a couple of beers, and I fly. I go places. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I'm very fortunate. The fact that I put this radio to begin with, the fact that people are listening, the fact that I'm talking to you and all the other people I have talked to, and so on and so forth. It's amazing. It's like a miracle. I've been in this country. Fortunately, I'm so proud to be a U.S. citizen now, but people complain too much, man, about this president, that president, this, that. Man, I'm a stupid guy, an average guy who did it. Anybody could do it. Yeah, of course, not everybody will be, will have a bunch of degree or go to an Ivy school, but you can do very well in this country. Don't blame the government, the system, this.
I agree with you. I'm a very average person. My skill is in just making art and making music, and I have little patience for people that complain, especially in a country like this where you can do absolutely anything you want and be anything you want to be, but it takes a significant amount of effort and work and vision. And if you have that, you can do anything. So you're proof of that. I'm proof of that. I did not do well in school.
Hard work pays off, man.
It does. Yeah. And I just kept going myself, just like making music for television, video games, movies, because I wanted to get closer to this. And now I've transitioned into really making records full time, and I still do music for media as well. But I'm spending a lot of time making music. I'm working on a lot of new projects right now. I finally finished which took 8 years. I think you maybe know the story. But now that the big album is out, I am sort of doing a reset and moving forward on a lot of new projects. So it's a very creative and exciting time for me. Even though the pandemic is happening outside, in here, I have a plan. I'm working very hard. I'm very inspired. So,
and why took 8 years? I mean,
it's an ambitious project. I wanted to make an album just for me, my own kind of music, with no regard for what is popular, for no regard. I'm not making it for anyone else, just for me. But I wanted the album, every song to be an anthem. I wanted every song to have so much detail and beauty in it. And I wanted every song to be long. Like one song is a journey. And so I set the bar really high, and I set it so high, in fact, that I was doing it all by myself, that a couple of times I had a mental breakdown, where I was like, this is too much. I had to put the whole project away. And then I released an ambient guitar record, which is very simple, pure music. Then I went back to and I worked on it some more and did a bunch of work, and then got overwhelmed again, put it away again, released another ambient guitar album in 2019, which was Rune. And then I finally came back and I finished it. But I know you've just listened to it, but this is very complex, multi-textural music with a lot of instruments in every track. And to release an album that's 90 minutes long with 8-minute long songs in instrumental music, it's kind of not exactly what is the standard thing for artists right now. So
90 minutes, unbelievable. I think I probably never. Of course, on a vinyl you couldn't do it, right? But on a CD, you have like 13 or 14 tracks. It's impossible. I mean, it's
Well, luckily the record label I'm signed to, Spotted Peccary Music, this is a double CD. So you open it and it's 2 CDs, disc 1 and disc 2. It's in vinyl, which is coming out any day. It's about to show up, and it's a double vinyl, with 2 big records with all the color, and to have a double album is really exciting, and to have all these people loving it, because it's been very well received. And for me, that's what it's all about. Because I worked for 8 years putting every ounce of myself into this album, so much that I almost had nothing left. But to work that hard for so long just to give it away, it's kind of an interesting space to be in.
True, but why? So it would have been very easy for you to give up the project, right? And say, no, I want to do simple stuff. I will get paid the same amount of money that I do this vinyl, that one, or that. Why you didn't give up? Because it kept on coming back to you. Kept on coming back, man.
No,
I have something there.
When I had these breakdowns and I put it away, I knew that I was going to finish the record, and I never gave up. But my vision was a grand vision. I want this big double album where every song is huge and every song is an anthem, but every song is full of emotion. Yep. And for people can take headphone journeys, and I really wanted to do that, and I knew I was going to do it. It just took time, because I'm one person. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I have good days and I have bad days. I'm not always on, because I'm making this from my heart. So I have to be inspired to really bring the best melodies and progressions and sounds and production to every track. It's a lot of work. It's exhausting.
What's your creative process like? I mean, on a weekly basis, on a day-to-day basis?
My creative process?
Yeah, how the music come to you, or you are driving somewhere and you listen to stuff, or you write stuff down? How?
I'm always inspired, and I always have ideas. That's the easy part. I come in here and I have many instruments, and I play guitar and synthesizers and drums, and I do a lot of programming, and I create really interesting sounds, and I have all my special sounds. So when I come in here and I have an idea, sometimes it starts on the piano. I have a electric grand here, the CP70 from the 80s, and then I have a grand piano, Steinway, in the house. But I'll start with an idea. And last night I was in the piano room and I was playing something, and I knew I was going to forget it. So I got my iPhone and I recorded a video of me playing this idea. And I have a bunch of those ideas. And then I'll come in here and take that simple idea and I'll listen to it and say, where does this idea want to go? How big does it want to get? What is after this part? What's part A, B, C, D? And what synthesizer sounds do I want? Is it drums or no drums? And I just listen to it and I just keep going. When I go until it's a big, overwhelming thing with all kinds of stuff in it, then I have to figure out how to make it all beautiful and play nice together to create an arc of an experience for the listener. Whether it's 8 minutes long or 10 minutes long or 6 minutes long, it's a task. So the ideas come easy. I have hundreds of ideas. Finishing them in a way that is amazing takes time and craft.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
By the way, your website, I'm a software guy, so it's very, very well done, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Very, very well, nice put together. The picture, the videos, the images, the text,
Thank
and
you.
the menu structure. Yeah, it's very, very well done. So
Well, I do have to shout out my really good friend, Joe Abreu, created the whole website. He's also a photographer. He took all the photos of me,
yeah,
and he's done a lot of my music videos.
yeah,
So, Joe, if you're listening, thank you for being so awesome, and thank you for your thoughts on the website. So that was davidhelpling.com, right?
that's right. Yeah,
Thank you. And that's a new
it's amazing.
website for me. I haven't had a website for years,
It's
and I
really
figured
good.
with this album, it was time to
And put
get
something
with
nice
it.
together. Absolutely, man. So let's
Thank
go
you.
back to your first record in '96 and '99.
Yep.
Before we talk into that particular record, how difficult was to put these two albums together? Because you were very young, you were playing instruments, saving enough money to buy, a keyboard, or never mind the equipment that you have right now. But at
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
time, how difficult was to put the first two together?
It's been a long time and a long journey to where I am now. Obviously, both with my technical abilities as an engineer, as a composer, but all the equipment and the technology changes daily. You have to stay hip with it. But back in 1996, my first album was called Between Green and Blue, and
Correct.
I
Yeah.
made this album myself. I wasn't on a record label. I didn't even know if people would like this kind of music. And the
Mhm.
concept with my first album was to take my ambient guitars, which are delays that are synchronized to tempo, modulation delays, looping, and taking that and mixing it with percussion and synthesizers, because that's what I love. So I made the album myself, and I made a bunch of CDs, and I give it away like as a business card. So, and I worked at a music store. So all day long, every day, I was in a music store selling synthesizers and recording gear to all these artists, and I would give them the CD. And one day, these two guys came in, and I gave them the CD, and these were two guys from the record label. And they said, "Hey, we want to sign you. We love your music. We want to take what you've made and remaster it and redo the artwork and sign you." And I was like, "Cool, let's do that." So the first album happened without it ever being a record. It was just like, I'm having fun. Let me make a bunch of songs. And the second album, that was tough. People talk about their sophomore album. For me, when your first album happens almost on accident, and now they're like, okay. Oh, and also that album was nominated for New Age Album of the Year.
Totally. Yeah.
So, and they're like, okay, now that you're signed on a contract, make your second album and make it awesome. There's nothing in the world that has more pressure than, okay, you have a award-winning album, now make a better one. So that was tough. But in 1999, I released my second album, and that was Sleeping on the Edge of the World. And if you listen to Between Green and Blue from 96 and Sleep on the Edge of the World in 99, you see a big jump
Yeah.
in production style and synthesizers and really dialing in the reverbs and finding a magical space. So I grew so much in that first few years between my first and second record. And then from 99 to now, it's been, a slow climb. But yeah, that's how it happened.
Spotted Peccary, that particular record label, specialized in introspective soundscape and stuff like that. So it's good that they find you, but in a way you end up with the correct record label, which is
Yeah, and they're West Coast people, and all of the music and all the artists that they were signing even back then were very much in line with these musical dreams I've always had of these sounds and making music that was instrumental, but was going places and inspired people and was really cinematic, kind of. And there were other artists on the label doing that, like John Jenkins, who I ended up collaborating with from 2007 to 2013. We made 3 albums together. But there's a lot of people on the record label that had the same vision. And the record label, everyone involved is really focused on the art. And when you think of record labels, you think of money. These guys want to make sure every record looks amazing and sounds amazing, and they want to get it out there and change the world. They really do. And they really are still like that. They don't just sign anybody. It has to be really good. So I feel very fortunate that they found me, or I found them, or however you think about that serendipitous meeting. I think I'm very fortunate to be connected with them. And here we are 2022, I just released my 8th album, and it's a double album, and I'm working on more. And wow, who would have thought, right?
Yeah, I would love to get a hold of the owner of the record label, because I'm interested right now. I'm going to be interviewing some famous record engineers. I'm going to be interviewing the head of Abbey Road in London.
Wow.
The guy who does all the mixing and production for Peter Gabriel in London. And so I want to see when I buy a CD or a vinyl, what happened. I mean, the whole process, right? The remastering the discs and fixing, changing, get a producer. I have no idea how this stuff works. Tomorrow I'm going to see Sigur Rós. I pay $100. I go in, take a couple of beers, hopefully talk to them, and I leave. Right? I have no idea how the instrument got there, how the wind there, how difficult it was. The same. I'm seeing Coldplay on Wednesday. Will enjoy myself, and I don't know how this stuff happens. It will be.
I love your passion for all this music, and you just go to these concerts and you connect with these people.
Absolutely.
But you've been doing this radio thing for so long, or so well.
Yeah,
now, when you talk to these people, they're like, "Oh, you're that guy. We need to talk to you." You know.
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
But you're still a fan. I see that in your eyes. You're a fan of this music.
Absolutely. I see. Just to give an idea, David, I see between, I don't know, 35 to 50, 55 shows a year. I am very lucky because I live in the border I live in Virginia, but I live in the border with Washington, D.C. and Maryland, which is about 20 minutes away. So every band come this way. And I mean, every band come this way, because the income per capita here is higher, close to Washington, D.C. They know that every band will come here. They will sell out at the show. And so I'm able to see from Pink Floyd people, well, they're not alive. I mean, they're not together, but from Genesis, from Coldplay many times, Pat Benatar, Blondie, Kraftwerk. I'm seeing Tears for Fears.
Nice.
So I'm very lucky, And,
you are very lucky, and being here in San Diego, every band comes here as well. And I've seen Pink Floyd live, and I've seen U2 live. I've seen Tears for Fears. I've seen The Fix. I've seen Simple Minds, Echo and the Bunnymen, Depeche Mode. I've been to all these shows in the last 5 years because all these bands are coming through here. So I too am very fortunate in a place where even though the live music was shut down for a while, it's definitely back. This is June, and I have a lot of shows I'm going to see. So it's going to be cool. So I share that with you. But to go back to what you said you get the CD or this record, and you don't know everything that went into it. And then you get to find out who engineered it, who mastered it, how it was made, how the instruments are done. And I think that's important for listeners, especially now where the paradigm is you go on Spotify and the album is a little square and you listen to it, boom, 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 and you're done. And you don't necessarily have any kind of knowledge of the fact that a bunch of people worked really hard for a long time to make this little thing that you're listening to. Yeah. And for me, especially within, 8 years, all 90 minutes of music, I mixed it myself. I had a lot of musicians. I recorded it myself. I had it mastered by Emily Lazar in New York, who I've wanted to work for a long time. So there's a lot that went into this record. So I love that you go behind it and find out, wow, what did it take to make this magic? And I think people need to know that this music doesn't just happen. For me,
absolutely. I have many records that, I don't know, like 3,000 vinyls, 6,000 CDs, about 1,000 Spotify. I have like 4 different floors. Here's a part of it, right?
You need to do a video tour of your collection and just make a video that's a tour.
Let me give you an example. So let's say, let me pick 2 albums, right? This is an album from Pat Metheny. I don't know if you know
Pat Metheny. So I love Pat Metheny.
This is a great album, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Kraftwerk, we mentioned that. I'm bringing that to a friend in when I go to California next week. So I know they're great, but so my question, since I'm an engineer, right? Why they're great and other CDs are not that great, other bands are not that great, So Yeah, so the artist is the same. So it was the engineer, the producer. Why make something great? And so I begin now behind the scene. I'm interviewing all the people, but I wanna see what's happening behind the scene. What make an album or not great, right?
Yeah, in a
How
lot
it
of
was
cases,
mixed together, where it was produced, whether it's a record label was the great, if the engineer was unbelievable. Like for example, your album in. It's
yes,
a very complex album. It's a very complex. It takes many instruments and the other vocalists that are on different track, different people, and getting a hold of them. Of course, with the COVID, well, I need to get a hold of Mary that has a great voice, or
yeah,
Suzanne that can be a great, and then somebody to send the track, put it together. And you like it? No, I don't like it. Her voice too bitch. I think Andreas can be better from this track, but not for that one. That takes man, somebody to put it together, somebody to be running the show for you, and
years.
so
I do it all
that
myself, but
yeah, there you
yeah,
go. Right.
Pat Metheny. All the magic comes from Pat Metheny's fingers. All you have to do is record it, and it's going to be great. Everything he does is great. And he just did a great interview with Rick Beato on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
so good. I love Pat Metheny. But yeah, you're right. For me, I have 4 different session musicians that I had come in to play instruments. But these are people that I already knew that were very excited for the new album and what I was doing, and they really wanted to be part of it. So it wasn't like I was auditioning people. I went to Miriam Stockley, who I'm a huge fan of, and I already knew that she would say yes because we had worked together a little bit in the past. And then Matthew Shaning plays electric cello. Benji Wertheimer plays the Ezrosh, which is a bowed Indian instrument. And these are just amazing people. I'm lucky to have them. And then Nidhi Bhatmuli is an Indian singer that is here in San Diego. So she came, we recorded all the vocals right here, and had a blast. Took us 3 years.
How do you know those people? I mean, how you get a...
I was connected through Nidhi Bhatmuli because of a film score that I did that was an Indo-American film that I needed some Indian instruments, and she's a singer. So I'd already worked with her before and recorded her here. And Matthew Shaning is a peer. I had been to some award shows and I saw him perform where I was performing. And I saw him play cello through delays and looping. And I was like, I got to work with this guy. So, you start building connections. And Miriam Stockley, I've been a fan since 91, like a fan. And eventually, over time, I reached out to her. And now I'm at the point where I can call her and she knows who I am. And it's still very surreal for me because to me, Miriam is like, whatever you feel the best female vocalist is in the planet, that's Miriam to me. So yeah, it's a dream to be connected with these people now. And it's kind of dangerous because if I have an idea, I can just call her and say, hey, you want to sing on this? And
absolutely.
It's really fun.
For me, from the radio at the beginning, I was sending 20 emails a day, nobody would reply. Now people are getting back. Now people are pinging me, say, hey, I noticed that the interview is for a Peccary. Yeah, that you did with that guy, or I used to play with Tangerine Dream. I did an album in 1985 in Berlin, and let's make time to interview. And so it's unbelievable,
and now you're connected with all these people, and before you know it, you will be talking to Peter Gabriel.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
You will be talking to Roger Waters, or
I hope
it's
so.
It's going to happen.
I want to interview everybody. I'm a very ambitious person. For me, I to give up. I'm an immigrant, as you know, right? So I my inside, the way that my brain works or whatever, I'm perseverant. I'm consistent, unless Peter Gabriel ended up suing me because I sent him too many emails, and I will stop. But I wanna interview everybody for the radio, for YouTube, put the stuff there, have the opportunity one day, man, getting a beer with Peter Gabriel or Eric Clapton at the Royal Albert Hall. I was there recently, and it's amazing, man.
You are a very ambitious person, but you're already most of the way there. You've done so much work and you've amassed such a collection, and you've connected with so many artists. Here we are connecting as human beings.
Absolutely,
very cool. So it's nice to be around inspired, enthusiastic people.
Absolutely, man. Then in 2003, you did a soundtrack for a film called Trace Off.
Yeah,
how
that
did
was where Nidhi Bhatmuli
or
sang on that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
How did it happen? I mean, it's very common for people that do ambient or kind of electronic music to end up doing soundtrack. I mean, like Tangerine Dream, right? Tangerine have done, I
Oh
don't know, they
yeah,
have did like
it's a great
16 songs,
example.
you know, and
Yeah.
for science fiction, horror movies, or whatever, you know, they kind of
Well, and
people,
that's where I ended up going. But with trade-offs, the director was here in San Diego, and he was
yeah,
filming here in San Diego, and he knew someone that knew me through my music or working at the music store or something like that.
yeah,
Which I wasn't working there anymore. I was full time doing music for television, a lot of TV commercials. But
yeah,
he reached out and said, "Hey, would you want to score my film?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Because the director was a fan of films that I had seen that I really liked, like Kama Sutra, Monsoon Wedding. This is Miranar. And so I was like, I would love to do music, deep, emotional, ambient music like this. So it was a very easy thing to do for me. And I did a lot of independent horror films because horror films are very textural and very dramatic and really fun because you get to go over the top, you know, you get to be suspenseful and then all this stuff is happening. So I love music for film. I haven't done a lot recently. The last film I did was quite a while ago for Lionsgate called Cold Storage, but I did a big score for that and that was fun.
good for
Yeah.
you. You might,
Yeah.
you must know Dario Argento, right? In Italy,
Oh,
kids.
what's that again?
Dario Argento, of
Oh
course, with
no.
Suspiria, Tenebra. No, of course, you know. I would say,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's many in Italy. There, you know, soundtrack, right? Ennio Morricone is very
Oh
popular,
yeah.
of course,
Yes.
but there are many others that did, you know, suspend horror movies where the I don't know if you don't if you don't like horror movie, you can take the music, right, and listen to it. So I always separate the two different things, right?
So do I. I listen to a lot of soundtrack music
Right, with the
because
movie maybe it's terrible, right, and but the soundtrack is great, and vice versa. You know, I think great movies where the soundtrack is bad. You know, in my
it's
opinion. You know.
true. It's true. I do find a lot of parallels to the music I want to make and film music. Because the music that I'm making, instrumental, dramatic, epic, ambient, but very thematic music, doesn't exist anywhere else other than the genre I'm in and film.
Yeah.
And so whether it's Hans Zimmer or James Newton Howard or Howard Shore or any of these guys, Edward Shearmur, you listen to this stuff by itself without the movie and what's happening in the mix, in the production, and the themes and the emotion that's in there is magic. And that inspires me more than rock music or whatever, you know, any day.
Man, I would love to interview all this movie director. I mean, you know, film composer that you mentioned because they're amazing. Unfortunately, you know, as you mentioned before, you know, this year, the last 3-4 weeks, we got a lot of great musicians. You know, Vangelis and the Klaus Schulze of this world, and many other men. It's not good, man.
No,
People like them, they don't come around. It's like Michael Jordan, right? They comes every 50 years. You know, they're not everybody. There's great musicians, great players, but you know, the Michael Jordan of this world is very different. You know?
We're losing so many legends have been taken in the last 3 months. And these are legendary musicians that inspired me, all of them, from this blossoming time of the late 70s, early 80s. All this great music is happening. You know, you talk about Klaus Schulze and Vangelis. You know, these are foundational people, and Vangelis especially.
Unbelievable.
I mean, and some of my most favorite music of Vangelis is not Blade Runner. You know, it's like the Bounty.
No, the top of my kids. Yeah.
Oh, because the film score was never released, but I have a bootleg of the whole score. But that was a big, wonderful film, but so moody, so beautiful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I find the deeper scores a lot of these artists, and I get really inspired by that.
Yeah. Unbelievable. The guy was unbelievable. Before we talk about with your collaboration with John Jenkins.
Yeah.
So how you went at the time you released 2 albums, you put that soundtrack together. How people get a hold of you from, you know, TV, from radio, from commercial? to do, 10, 20-second spot for a car or whatever there people are selling on TV and whatever. How they get a hold of you? You create like a library
Well,
or
I'm in San Diego.
Yeah,
San Diego is just south of Los Angeles.
that's right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of production in San Diego, a lot more than people think. And
Really?
and I was doing music for Sony for the PlayStation division. I was doing a lot of the trailers, and I would have someone call me, "Hey, are you the guy that did the trailer for God of War 3 on PlayStation 2 or 3?" I'd be like, "Yeah," and they say, "Hey, do you do TV commercials?" And I said, "Yeah." I just say yes to everything. And then I would do a TV commercial, and they'd say, "Hey, are you the guy that did the TV commercial for that Nespresso coffee thing?" And I go, "Yeah." "Hey, will you do this?" "Sure." Wherever the money is, I got to buy more instruments so I can make records. So it's all word of mouth and people calling me because they saw or heard something that I had created for media, or they saw a film that I had done, and they said, "Hey, I heard your score for Cold Storage on Lionsgate. Would you do something similar for my film?" Or, "I like the kind of ambient sounds you did. Can you do this commercial for this wellness product that's all soft and nice?" I'm like, "Yeah, yes."
Without looking at the numbers, does TV doing 30 seconds for a TV commercial or game, they pay well comparatively? Or
Well, because I own 2 publishing companies, the key for making money as a composer is to get something on television. If you have commercials on television and you own the publishing rights, every time that airs, you get a royalty.
I got you.
And I started doing a lot of infomercials, and infomercials are 30-minute long commercial. Sometimes late at night you see the shark
3 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah, the infomercials. So I started doing those, and this is 30 minutes of music. It's almost like an album, but these infomercials play thousands of times in a month. And if I'm the publisher for this and the writer, I'm getting the writer's share of the royalties and the publisher's share. So music for television is where it's at as far as making a living right now, especially now that we live in a world where people don't pay for music.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the store and spend $10, $12 for a CD. You click a button and you listen to whatever you want. So I think musicians, if you're not touring, you either have to have a lot of streams or have some other source of income to fuel your music. Luckily, I've sort of transitioned into that where as a recording artist, my support from that has become very good. And I'm in a place where I'm seeing a future where I can just make records full time and then do some soundtrack work on the side. So it sort of shifted from working really hard for music for television and making records on the side. Now I just make records and I have some soundtrack work on the side.
Right. So the good example would be Bandcamp. I think in Bandcamp, the musician get paid, I think 90 cents of the dollar. So it's very, very, very good. The
if you're selling
10%, right?
Things, yeah.
As opposed to Spotify, you need to have like 1 million hits a month to get a check for $20 or whatever.
More than 1 million. Yeah. But, I don't know where the industry is going to go. The bottom line is, if the current paradigm for music consumption is not supporting the artists are either going to still make the music they want and release it independently, or the system is going to realize, hey, there's not a whole lot of good music coming out because there's not a lot of people that can make a living from it. And I think that's going to shift in the future. I think it's possible that there's going to be a global shift in consciousness of people as well. And I think in the future, it's possible that art will be much more highly regarded than it is right now, especially in the United States. All that matters is money. And as you and I know, money doesn't really exist, and it doesn't make us happy, and it's not why we're here. I think if we could be moving into a society where art and music is highly regarded, and money is not such the focus, and people are less selfish, I think we might see a big bloom in creativity coming, like we saw in the late 70s, early 80s. But that's me being optimistic about the future,
For me, on the other hand, Spotify is great because I pay $10 a month or whatever it is, and I'm able to listen to your stuff last night because I don't know I don't know any of your music, or and thousands of other musicians. So for a marketing tool point of view, is the best thing that ever happened, right? For you as the producer, as the owner of the right, you get 1 cent every 1,000 hits or whatever the amount.
Yeah. Well, that's what's happening everywhere.